to episode 17 of The Power of Now. This podcast is just a podcast where we talk about taking action towards, your dreams, your goals, and things that are important to you. And I always try to get a guest on that I feel like is somebody who has taken action and done things to move forward in life. And I try to get people on that I've seen doing a lot, regardless if it's with music or filmmaking, whatever the case may be. Today I have a very special guest, an old friend of mine. He's a local politician, and his name is R.J. Renna.
Hey, thanks for having me, Rich.
So thank you for coming out, first of all.
Happy. And honestly, what a great intro. I mean, make me feeling really good right now,
So I'm, when I first started the podcast, you were definitely on the list of people I wanted to talk to. Since we went to high school together, and since we got out of high school, you're somebody who I've always seen just doing things. And when we grew up in Lindenhurst, the town was a lot different than it is today. I think it's improved dramatically, and I think you played a big role in that.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I mean, when we were kids, I feel like Lindenhurst was kind of headed towards a bit of a decline, unfortunately. And, you'd always hear people saying how great Lindenhurst was when they were growing up, our parents, right? And the generation before us. And, when I got on the village board and started jumping into it, it was like, we got to turn this around. Let's turn it around. And I think right now we're seeing a lot of great success, and the downtown's turned around. The place is, just exciting, and a lot of great energy right now.
Yeah, I remember growing up, high school. I mean, we grew up during the global financial crisis. Obviously, I think that played a role too. But the downtown area was mostly vacant. Mm-hmm. I would hang out on Wellwood Avenue, and I'd notice most of the stores were vacant, and a lot of the buildings were in disrepair, and it just didn't look that great, And throughout the years, I moved away for a while, and every time I would come back, I would notice things were looking better. There's more and more thriving businesses downtown, and especially during the holidays. I love during Halloween around the gazebo. There's Halloween decorations now. There's Christmas decorations up there.
Yep.
What kind of a role? Did you play any role in those kind of decisions?
Yeah. So when I first got on the board in 2017, I was on the Business Improvement District, and I had been vice president of the Chamber of Commerce, and we were talking about what we wanted to do to make Lindenhurst more attractive. And the early conversation was we had done this video. I don't know if you recall. It was called Proud Town video. And there was a lady in Patsy's Bakery, mm-hmm. and she was ordering a casada cake. And we interviewed her for the video, and she says, what I think about Lindenhurst, I think it's that little Christmas village, that place in the snow globe, and it's an amazing little spot. And I was like, okay, guys, pause. We got to recreate this. How do we recreate this, right? These are core memories for people. How do we create a core memory for the next generation? And we started the next year. We started buying Christmas decorations and holiday decorations, and the Business Improvement District, I know it's, I'm not sure if you know how it works, but essentially all the businesses that are on kind of Wellwood Avenue and the cross section of Hoffman from Delaware to 5th Street pay an additional tax to be for being within that district. They make they collect around $40,000 a year from all of those businesses. Mm-hmm. And we then took that money, portions of it, and to incentivize people to come to the downtown, because that's the objective of the Business Improvement District, is to bring people to the village, right?
Right.
And we said, all right, let's go. John Frenna, great man over at Little Flower Shop, and Jason Katakis, they went over to Georgia. They went to a show. They picked out a bunch of these decorations, and we planned it, and we set them up the first year, and the response was amazing, right?
Yeah.
And I think the best one is people over time were like, this looks great, but we're missing this. And we kept adding to it. And then, there's this classic postcard of Lindenhurst. I'm sure you've seen it. It's a Christmas time, and it's Welcome Home to the Troops.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, so we were like, everyone's like, we need to recreate lights over Wellwood, right? Let's get banners across the street and lights across again. So we added that last year, and we just keep adding more. And then this year, the Bid and the Holy Black got together, and the Holy Black really did all the setting up of it, and he picked the stuff out with Jason, Matt over there, and they set it up, and that went over huge. I think it was the kids loved it, the businesses loved it, and you know, we're gonna, I think, double down on that next year too.
Yeah,
you know?
I think that was tremendous. Like when I drove past there and I saw like. First, I saw the Holy Black posted like when they were setting up, and I was like, I got to go check that out. I went out of my way to go look at it, and it looked amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you know, that's one thing that I've noticed that's huge. That you know, like when I was growing up, I wouldn't say that Lindenhurst was like a bad place to live, but it wasn't anything that I felt like at the time I really took pride in, and now like I'm like. When I'm here, especially during the holidays, and when I see like all the businesses down there, it's like completely like night and day. So I mean, guys have really done a great job with that.
Thank you. Yeah, and I mean, it takes time, right? It's been many years at work now, and there's still a lot more work to do, you know. And we're excited to continue to turn it around, you know.
So one of my questions that I wanted to ask you is, you know, well, first of all, like, how did you first decide to get involved in politics? And how was that road for you, like getting your start?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, you know, Rich, I mean, how long have I known you? Probably, right? I'm just thinking.
Going back to probably middle school.
Yeah, so, right?
At least.
So I always very young, was always involved in student council, Knights of Columbus, community groups. You know, my sister, she, as you know, Rich, she passed away from cancer, so we started a foundation. Mm-hmm. You know, I went to D.C., I advocated for bills at like 16, 17 years old. And I just always felt like we could do better. And I always felt like I could be a positive agent for change and make things happen. So, you know, I graduated high school in 2009, and I said, you know, I'm going to stay local. And I went to Farmingdale. And right after I graduated, I joined the Kiwanis Club of Lindenhurst. And they were one of the people that gave me a scholarship when I graduated. And so I was the youngest Kiwanis guy there. I was 18. Everybody was much older than me. And we'd meet at the Sea Haven. And I got to know these people. And then I got involved with the Chamber of Commerce. I became the president of Kiwanis. I became the vice president of the Chamber of Commerce. And I just kept getting more and more involved. And I just saw so much opportunity in Lindenhurst that we weren't taking advantage of. And I'm not going to say it's because the people that were in the positions weren't doing a good job. They were doing the best job that they could do. But, you know, they weren't overly technologically savvy, right? Yeah. They weren't leveraging social media in any sort of way. So, you know, I knew I could add value. So I decided I was going to run for the village board. I was going to run for trustee. And that was back in, I think, 2016. And I ran, and I think Kenny St. John, he was a year younger than us. He ran for mayor. I ran for trustee. And I lost by a couple hundred votes. And I was like heartbroken. Yeah. That night after I lost, I walked to the headquarters where they were. I congratulated them. I said, congratulations, you won. But I'm not going away. I still want to help. I still want to make a difference. And they were about a year later, then the Mayor Brennan at the time, he stepped down. And Mike Leverada, who I ran against, actually, said, and not because I didn't like him, but, you know, I just wanted to run for that seat, right? Mike Leverada became the mayor, and they had the ability to appoint somebody to fill his seat. So they appointed me, and then I ran again for the term a couple times and have won each time. And so it was hard to get involved. It was hard because you're young, you're the whippersnapper. Everybody's like, you're a kid, you don't know anything. And we told you to wait. You got to wait your turn. And, you know, the system is actually made to keep you out. I hate to sound so much of a skeptic or, you know.
It's true, though, yeah.
Yeah, like you really have to know the laws. And if you don't know the laws, the problem is you got to find somebody who does. And all the people that know the laws that are involving election law and municipal law, they're all in politics, right? So, like, now you got to ask somebody who's in politics who's either completely on the other side of your political aisle or somebody who's on your political aisle side but really can't help you to help you. And you're kind of just out there winging it, you know? And so, like I said, it's definitely meant to keep people out, but that didn't hold me back. And I think just continuing to fight on and give, people saw that I had a lot of value to add, and they gave me the opportunity, you know? Yeah,
and I'm glad they did, and that's kind of like why I asked too, because I know there's a lot of people who would like to get involved. I remember, who was it? Rob what was his name? We graduated with him. He was just on Jeopardy.
Rob Voiles.
Rob Voiles, yeah. So I was good friends with him, and he like ran for school board.
He did, yeah.
And you know, we had a lot of people that we graduated with that really wanted to be involved with making a difference here, I think. And you know, I think we just grew up at a time where like we had so much access to information and you know, we really wanted to make a difference. But you're right though, the people that are already in those positions control so much. But the thing that I love about local politics is that, you know, like a lot of my friends and people that I speak to are very skeptical of government as a whole because they see the federal government and they see how all this time goes by and very little gets done, very little change is made. But my whole thing is always that if you look at the local level, that's where so much change can be done with a lot less time, because there's a lot less bureaucracy and there's a lot less. It's still there, but at the local level, you could make changes that I'm going to notice and my family members are going to notice. Whereas like at the federal level, anything that they do, it's not going to directly affect us as much.
Yeah, and as quickly, right?
Yeah.
You know, I absolutely agree with that. You know, they say all politics is local politics, right? And, you know, I've had a lot of great opportunities to meet a lot of amazing people. You know, for instance, you know, not too long ago, I was with the Speaker of the House and at a fundraiser, and we talked for a couple of minutes. And, you know, I met the old Speaker of the House and I've met a lot of high government officials, and they all didn't just walk in and land there. They started on some smaller local levels and in the state assembly, the state senate, or in townships, and you know, and moved on up, right? And I think one of the things that's so interesting about Lindenhurst and even Babylon as a whole is even though there's politics that exist, right? I mean, the supervisor's a Democratic supervisor. He's the head of the Suffolk County Democratic Party. You know, in Lindenhurst, we're all Republican, but that really doesn't hold us back from working together, right? And we have a great relationship with the town of Babylon. And I think it's so easy on the local level to work together and find synergy and connections because you all know the same people. You know, it's not like you're battling somebody from a district, you know, 6 states over who you really don't know, and you don't know his people and their concerns. So, you know, if the upper echelons of government, the federal government, all those governments above us could learn anything, I think it's working together, and it's kind of the accountability that local government brings. Right. You know, I can't get away from people. You know, you go to the bakery, you're at the restaurant, you can't sit down without somebody coming over, and most of the time, you know, I hope they don't complain, but sometimes they do, right? So yeah, it's definitely if you know, local government's a great place to start, and you know, we really need to get more people involved. Right. There's not enough people involved.
Yeah, people need to show up, and when they have meetings like for the town and for the village, people need to show up and hear the issues, because a lot of people want to complain, but they're not there for the votes. They're not there to make their voice heard. And when they do, I feel like they do when it's already gotten to the point where like now they're, you know, annoyed and they're coming to complain. It's not like they were there when the original policies were put into place.
Yeah, and you know, you just cut me off at any time, but I mean, I think one of the hardest things about, and I learned this when I first started, I would get on social media and I'd be at the gym. It was 5 o'clock in the morning, be on the bike at Retro Fitness in the theater room, typing away at people because and trying to provide them with facts about what was going on. In the village, they were like, you know, the local government's doing this, and I'm like, no. That is not what's going on. These are actually the facts. This is a state law. This is what is going on in the county. This is why it's out of our control, or it's not in our jurisdiction, or we don't have the ability to do things, you know. And you know, I just found myself being so drowned in negative energy, and the worst part was people generally don't want to know the truth. And they don't want to learn the facts. I mean, for years, I would write to people and say, listen, I want to talk to you. Why don't you meet me at Village Hall? We'll go grab a cup of coffee. We grab a beer. I don't care where you want to go. I'll come to your house and we'll have this conversation and we'll talk about it. But it's really not as you're seeing it. And I have the proof to show you that. And I would say 1 out of every 50 people I've said that to have actually taken me up on it. You know, and I think that's one of the things that I think is really important. And you know this, right? You're in social media world, right?
Yeah.
Misinformation, disinformation, the stuff that's put out there. people don't do their homework. They don't get educated themselves to learn about what's going on, you know, and it's unfortunate because the people with the loudest voice aren't always right, you know?
Right. No, it's true.
So
yeah, and I would say as far as, you know, your career, right? And we started talking about how you first got involved. And that was back in, you said 2016 was when
2016 I ran, 2017 I got appointed, yep.
Okay, so let's say from 2017 till now, you know, you're talking about, what, like 7 years, 8 years?
Yeah, it's been 7 years, yeah.
So in that time, if you had to point to like 2 or 3 things that you would say, you know, these are my biggest accomplishments in that time, what's something that really stands out to you?
I think the thing I'm proudest of is what we've done in the downtown. And when I came in, we had 23 vacancies on Wellwood Avenue. You were mentioning that before.
Right.
And right now there's probably about 3.
Wow.
And it was such an amazing experience getting to know people, and getting to help people. Right. You know, when I remember Billy Miller, and I'm sure you've been to Restoration Kitchen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Billy Miller owns Restoration Kitchen. It's a non-for-profit restaurant that donates a portion of their proceeds, net proceeds, to non-for-profits. I walked in there to meet him the first day that, you know, I saw him working in there. And I said to him, I said, what are you, you're Billy, right? He's like, yeah, I'm Billy Miller. Nice to meet you. I said, I'm RJ. I said, are you out of your mind? Like, is there something matter with you? You like... You know, hey, making a non-for-profit restaurant. This guy was nuts. You know, it's hard enough to make in the restaurant business. You know, a lot of restaurants don't survive a year, you know?
Yeah, most.
Yeah, and he was a real gentleman. And, you know, we recently honored him at Mayor's Beautification Society for a Merchant of the Year. And I bring him up because he was kind of the cornerstone of bringing in a lot of new businesses, right? He came in, he opened up, he was extremely successful. We showcased him every way that we could. We tried to help him any way that we could. And he helped me advocate to get businesses here. Like, he helped come to meetings to talk to people that were thinking about opening here. You know, and I think being able to sit down with people who were putting everything that they had on the table and investing in Lindenhurst was amazing.
Right.
And to be able to help them to succeed was probably one of the kind of the thing I'm probably the proudest of the most. After that, I know that I brought a lot of structure to our municipality. I brought a lot of technology to our municipality. You know, if before I got here, if there was a fire in Village Hall, we would have lost over 150 years of records.
Wow.
It just would have been gone. So we got we brought in a company, we scanned all the files, so like all of that history, all of that is recorded and it's documented. And we're probably one of the, there are multiple municipalities that have it, but we're for being a village, to have that level of scanning done and all that documentation backed up. It's pretty huge. And Lindenhurst is no small village. We're actually, I think the third largest in New York State or fourth largest in New York State, and where we are the largest in Suffolk County with 28,000 residents, give or take, every day. And then Lindenhurst proper, which is, totally, the Venice and these other areas and Venetian and North Lindenhurst, there's about 40,000 people that are consider Lindenhurst Village their home, right? So I think the technological stuff that brought to Village Hall and the social media work and getting these guys emails.
Yeah.
I got on the board and nobody had an email.
Wow.
I'm like, what do you mean you don't have an email? Yeah, I don't have a village email. He says, no, everybody needs a village email. Like, we need to correspond on a regular basis. We need to, treat this like a business,
Right.
You're going to show up 2 times a month and not know what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing.
Yeah. I think the other thing, and I know we touched on this before, is really, getting Wellwood Avenue, I'm not done with it yet, but it's in the works. It's the gazebo, over on Wellwood Avenue. We are in the process of taking over that court building.
Okay.
And we're going to expand that space. And we're going to put in a theater venue. So for concerts and all this different stuff.
Okay.
And bathrooms, a concession stand, a park for kids. And we're going to expand that space. And I think it's going to be great because, when we had our 100th anniversary just recently, and we started the new tradition of having a ball drop on New Year's Eve. You know, we do Winter on Wellwood, which is this coming weekend. And when we do these events, thousands of people come out, you know. I started the St. Patrick's Day Parade. We had 15,000 people there for the parade, you know. So just really trying to continue to create Lindenhurst placemaking in the downtown, and then finishing up that gazebo space. You know, that'll be my third thing I think I'll be extremely proud of, you know. That's
awesome, man. Yeah, and like I feel like every so often, like every year there's more like grants that come in to help with, you know, like the roads. And I read there was some kind of expansion happening on Wellwood with the correct me if I'm wrong, but to add parking.
Yeah, so so what we did was on the west side of Hoffman, underneath the railroad, there's some parking there. It was commuter parking. We converted it to downtown parking because the downtown has been so busy, and we have less people are actually commuting to the city now than they were 5-6 years ago, right? So we used to sell, let's say, 1,200 commuter passes. Now we're selling like 700 or 800. So we have more spaces right next to the railroad. So we said, well, let's change this from commuter parking to regular parking in the downtown. Let's try to activate West Hoffman Avenue and support the businesses that are there. And then, of course, you know, when we do the conversion over at the gazebo, there'll be more dedicated parking being added there too. So, I think there's a lot of good things that are in store. I know we just won $5 million last year for New York Forward. It turns out to be like $4.5 million, but that's a pretty big chunk of money, you know?
Right.
And it was a goal of mine. I really wanted to win the 10 million. There's a DRI initiative where you could win 10 million, but we won 5 or 4.5. So we'll take it, I guess. Right. Right. And Governor Hochul was just here. We took a photo with her and she gave us a big check. And you know, that money is going to be good because it's going to continue to, it's going to help pay for the gazebo space, which now we would have received 7 million in grants to do that. And it's going to add a little bit more of a walking path over by the train station. And there's a bunch of things it's going to do to hopefully activate a more transit-oriented development and bring more people into the downtown and make it easier for them to walk, bike, or traverse into the downtown.
And I mean, now you got these apartment buildings popping up, not just in Lindenhurst, but all over Suffolk County. I've noticed pretty much, you know, centered around where the train stations are. There was one in Ronkonkoma that came up. We have the Well in Lindenhurst. And that's transforming, I'm sure, like, you know, as far as commuters, like if people are working remotely, they could just live there and everything that they need is right in the downtown area.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that was a big reason why we won the 4.5 million, because we had a transit-oriented development. We showed the government a track record of actually doing that. And, you know, obviously there's the conversation coming up about what's going to go on with the wall-bound space.
Everybody's been talking about that on Facebook.
Yeah, I know. It's like such a nightmare, right?
Well, because everybody's like, are they going to put another apartment building there? What's going on?
Yeah. I think the developer came and he had a meeting with the public. You know, we don't, to be honest, one of the things that we do now is when anybody wants to build apartments, we say, you go to the public and you have 2 public meetings with the public first before you officially submit an application to us. And, you know, you talk to the public and get their feedback, because eventually there's going to be a public hearing, and we'd rather you figure out what the public wants before an official public hearing and hopefully maybe make changes to what you're going to do before you make a submission. So there were 2 meetings that were held. I think a large crowd, 150, 200 people at the first one, a smaller crowd at the second one. I think the developer started with 172 apartments, and they will. And then when they had the second meeting, it went down to something like 52 or 55 condos along where would be along Bristol, for sale condos, and then I think like 80 or 90 apartments with a 8,000 square foot grocery store, because the old Warbaum's is a 60,000 square foot grocery store, and nobody wants it. We've been everywhere. We've talked to everybody, and you know, Trader Joe's. How many times I've heard that one?
Everybody wants a Trader Joe's.
Yeah, everybody wants a Trader Joe's. But Trader Joe's isn't interested. And, you know, we've talked to, you know, Uncle Giuseppe's, all of these different places, and Aldi's. He won't open up because Lidl won't open up because Aldi's around the block, you know. All these different places, you know, you could drive a mile in either direction and hit a grocery store.
Right.
So, you know, the market is saturated a little bit in that regard for us, and a lot of places don't want to open up a 60,000 square foot grocery store anymore. So, yeah, the developer now is kind of in limbo. I think we haven't heard anything from him since that last meeting. We'll see what comes up next. You know, it's a 4-acre site in the middle of the downtown. Something needs to happen. It can't sit for another 10 years.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, because it's been closed at least 10 years now.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah, which is a shame, you know?
Yeah.
So, but.
So, and then as far as, so I know coming up, you have a campaign for county legislator?
Yes, yes. So right now I'm the deputy mayor in the Village of Lindenhurst, and which I really enjoy and I love. And the previous deputy mayor, his name is Kevin McCaffrey, and Kevin McCaffrey ran for the county legislator in Legislative District 14, which is Lindenhurst, parts of West Babylon, parts of Colpeg, and North Babylon. He ran for that back in 2013. As a Republican, he ran, he won. And the county has a law that you can't be in office, in the same office for more than 12 years. So they have a term limit.
Okay.
So he is terming out. He, as of December 31st, 2025, he'll be terming out. So the election to replace him will be November 2025, right? So this upcoming November, about a year from now. So, you know, I'm looking to run for that seat. You know, I actually have a fundraiser coming up next week, December 9th. And the Republican Party's pretty excited about it. You know, we want to be able to continue on Kevin McCaffrey's hard work. He also happens to be the presiding officer of the county legislator, so it's like the head of the county legislator. And he's done a lot of great things for us. He's gotten us a lot of money in Lindenhurst. And, you know, because I care about a lot of the things that we're doing now, I understand the needs of the village. I understand the needs of our neighboring communities, and I think I could be a great asset in the county. And if I'm able to do half of what I did here in Lindenhurst on the county level, it'll be amazing. And I think it'd be really good. And we can make Suffolk County even better than what it is now.
Absolutely. And do you have plans in your head, like, you know, like the first, you know, like, let's say you get elected, what's your plan for your county position? Yeah,
so that's a really good question. And it's so interesting because the county is so different than a village, right? The village is, you know, it's definitely much smaller, where we represent, you know, a less, you know, smaller group of people. And the things that we have to focus on are a little bit different. But when I get elected, obviously the number one thing I want to do is continue to support the county executive. Our new county executive for the last couple of years, Ed Romaine, he's done a great job so far. I want to make sure I'm supporting him. And the other guy I really want to support who's doing great work is the DA, Ray Tierney. Ray Tierney's out there working tirelessly, you know, to continue to help make Suffolk County safe. So I want to support them. There's a couple other things that are going on, right? And that's kind of what we're looking at in regards to the county and the Valva case and what we're doing there with child services. So, you know, I really want to make sure I'm an advocate for children in the community, in our community and the county that might be benefiting from those services or potentially not benefiting from them, right? Mm-hmm. You know, that we're doing the right overhauls there. You know, what happened with the Valva case never have happened. Right. And it's a sin. It's horrible. And I want to make sure that we do our best there. And then, of course, we most recently just voted on Prop 2, right? Prop 2 is in regards to clean and safe water. You know, when I was a kid, we drank out of the hose, right? We did the same thing. Right. It's nothing like hose water. You know, I don't know if I'd look to my kids and say, drink out of the hose today, kids. Yeah. You know, and I hate to go down the RFK road, but, like, we need to make sure we understand what our kids are consuming, right? And, you know, it's interesting because we all just take it so much for granted. You pay the water bill, it's whatever it is, a month, and you know, nobody does any of the due diligence to figure out, hey, what are we drinking? What is in our water? You know, so that's something I'm definitely focused on. Outside of that, you know, listen, every politician could get up and say that they're going to lower taxes. I don't know how many politicians I've actually seen successfully lower taxes. Right. But if there's a fight to be had, it's a fight I'm willing to have and to try to lower taxes. You know, but I think it's one of those things that all these politicians say. So I don't want to say it just blindly, but, you know, how can we improve government efficiency? I'd love to be able to be part of that. You know?
Yeah, I think the only way to lower taxes is to get rid of government spending and figure out where money's being wasted. You know?
I agree. Absolutely.
And at the federal level, it's probably a lot more so than at the county level, but I'm sure there's waste in anywhere you go. And that's why, you know, even with businesses all the time, they'll hire consultants to come in and look at the budget and say, you know, where could we cut spending here?
Yeah.
So it could definitely be done, but you got to look at, you know, when it comes to federal government, I don't know how they could lower taxes with that when we're in $36 trillion worth of debt.
Yeah, it's insane.
I mean, you know, they could tax the American people at 100% tax rate, and we would still never get out of the debt that we're in right now. So, so something else has to be done clearly. Mm-hmm. But as far as at the county level, I don't know. I haven't seen the book, so.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're doing the budget right now in the Village of Lindenhurst, and it's scary. It's scary because everything's going up. Insurance is going up. You know, we're talking by like big numbers. It's not like it's going up $20K, $500-600K. You know, and you know, health premiums and all of these different things that are going up, and they're non-discretionary budget items, right? So. You know, you can't just say we're not going to do it. You have to do it. You know, and some of it's contract related. You know,
but that's probably one of the biggest problems with government spending is that when people get a government contract, they know, well, the government has to pay this, so we could jack up the prices now.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the other side of it too is sometimes, you know, things are contingent on you doing these things, right? So what do I mean by that is like. You can't get money unless you spend certain money, unless you have certain things in place, you know, and like and it's unfortunate, but like, you know, this is why sometimes we look at budgetary increases and we say, you know, honestly, you know, if we're not cutting spending or finding additional sources of revenue every year, we're going to have a problem every year, right? There's only a couple of ways to make money. It's taxes, fees, and those are really the big ways that we make money in the village. So, you know, if we're not going to be able to cut expenses, we're not going to be able to balance the budget, and we're going to have to raise taxes. So, you know, and we've done well not doing that for so many years, but, you know, to keep up with inflation and what's going on, I don't know if it's possible, you know?
Right. Yeah, I guess, you know, the only way to really do that would be to cut spending and finding ways where you could cut spending. And like you said, a lot of things you have to spend the money on, but finding things that are being overspent on would be probably...
Yeah.
If I was in the position, that's what I would be doing. I'm looking for ways that, you know, like, why are we spending money on this? Why are we spending this much money on this? You know?
Yeah. And I mean, one of the unique things about government too, right? It could bring out the best sometimes. It could also bring out the worst, right? So we bid out jobs. We have to do 3 bids on whatever. Let's say the job's win $10,000, 3 bids. You're technically supposed to take the lower bid.
Right.
And if you don't take the lower bid, you really have to have some majorly justifiable reason. Like, it's got to be very, very evident why you didn't take the lowest bid. So we drive with the lowest bid mentality. So what do you think you get when sometimes you drive with the lowest bid? You get the lowest quality of work sometimes.
Right.
And that means that what maybe could have been fixed and could have been lasted 10 years now lasts 5. Mm-hmm. And now you're bringing the person back in, or going back out to bid, and things cost more again, right? And it costs more on the taxpayer. And I know these are like, oh, well, you know, how often does that happen? Well, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how many things, like, you have to go with the lowest bidder on. And it's not always the right decision, you know, and it doesn't get you the longevity you need. So,
gotcha.
I know it's kind of boring, but it's the truth.
No, but this stuff is interesting to me because I'm intrigued by how the government works and you know, why they make the decisions that they make.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the other things too that is definitely lost on this generation, it's lost on me, I don't do it either, is, you know, the local paper, the South Bay.
Yeah. In
that local paper, the village has to pretty much, any law it's going to change or any thing that it's going to do pretty much has to put out public notice. And in the South Bay, it's all the public notices that exist about what we're going to do. We're going to add a stop sign. It's got to be published in the local paper. It's got to meet certain requirements. And, you know, then everyone's like, you know, you didn't tell us you were doing this. Well, I know. Technically, it was in the paper. You didn't read it.
Right.
You know, we actually, we added this thing called board docs for, you know, I wanted to be really transparent. I wanted people to have access to the information before they showed up at the meeting. So now you could go on board docs on the village website and you could get access to the full agenda before the meeting takes place. So you know it's what you're going to be there and what you could talk about, right? But a lot of people, again, don't go in the paper. They don't read. They don't say, wow, they're gonna add 6 stop signs on my street. I should be for or against this, you know?
Right. So one other thing I was going to mention too, so aside from the decorations that you guys do and the beautification of the downtown area, there's a lot of events, and like you were mentioning, a lot of people show up to these events. We're coming up to, the holiday season right now. We're going into December, and I just wanted to give a chance for you to like mention anything that's coming up over the next couple of months that people have to look forward to in Lindenhurst.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. This Sunday in particular, it's right around the block, right around the corner. December 1st is we're going to be doing our Winter on Wellwood. And that event is, all day long event. Starts at 12 o'clock. Santa's in the park. There's a Kindle market, a Chris Kindle market. There's a carousel for free for kids. And then there's a bunch of performers and kids from the schools will be singing. There'll be some dancers dancing and carolers caroling. Wow, it sounds like a song. And then we have our parade at 4:30. And Santa will come down Wildwood Avenue. He'll get up on the stage. He'll talk to the kids. And then the next big event after that, I would say, is New Year's Eve. We do our ball drop.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we won't have fireworks at the ball drop anymore. We were actually using the Wallbaum's property prior to their proposal to develop something there, and we kind of just said, you know what, we don't want to be in any way seem partial or impartial to anybody, and we just want to pull out of using their property, and unfortunately, it means that there isn't a space that's large enough to be able to set the fireworks off, because you need a 250-foot radius, and none of the parking lots are actually close enough to be able to do it. So we won't have fireworks this year, but our New Year's Eve ball drop will be from 7 until 9 p.m. We have live performers, music, and the big ball, obviously,
right.
The drop. After that, I would say the next big thing is our St. Patrick's Parade, and that's on March 29th.
Nice.
And we're honoring this year. We have 2 Grand Marshals, Meg and Joe Danaher.
Okay, great. And, so that's a lot to look forward to. And then you have your fundraiser on December 9th, you said?
Yeah, December 9th, we're kicking it off over at Hunter and Thief. I don't know, have you been there, Hunter and Thief?
I haven't been there yet, but my sister and my brother-in-law like going there a lot.
Yeah, it's very good. Jonathan and his wife own it, and they had such a hard time getting open, Rich. I mean, like, COVID, they signed a lease, COVID happened. And so that held them up. They had some issues with their initial contractor, so they wound up getting a new contractor. Then a car drove into the front of their building.
I remember that.
Yeah, so they've had so many issues. They finally opened up. Then they couldn't get their SLA license. We literally were fighting with the New York State Liquor Authority, calling everybody and their mother, trying to help them out. They get open. Amazing place. A lot of different cocktails. Jonathan, I think, is a New York, He won an award for a mixology contest in New York. So he's, a guy hand carves the ice in front of you. Wow. Really, really talented. So great place, good small plates. So yeah, we'll be there December 9th from 6 to 8. Looking like it's going to be a packed house already. Place is going to be full, and we'll get this campaign off and going and continue to do what we did here in Lindenhurst and bring it to the county.
That's awesome, man. And so when it comes to campaigning, you've had to campaign a couple of different times for different positions, and how does that whole process work? I know it's a lot, but what goes into it from beginning to end?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunately it's an expensive process, right?
Yeah.
But I would say the best campaigns start early, and they're prepared. And what does that really mean? That means having an understanding of what you're doing. Are you going to what are your top 5 things that you're going to be working on? That you're going to be tackling when you get elected to this position. Making sure the candidate understands the position. And then it's all the collateral, right? Palm cards, it's it's posters, it's flyers, and then it's knocking on doors. You want to win the election, go knock on doors. That is where your best efforts put. Knocking on doors, getting out there, and meeting people in the community, and that'll go on. It's already started for me, and it'll go on until November, and then it doesn't stop, right? because you'll run every 2 years for the county ledge. So you're constantly campaigning. You're constantly sitting and talking with people and getting to know them and ultimately trying to help people, right? And being a resource to them. So, I mean, ideally, I'd want to knock on 10 or 15,000 doors between now and November.
Wow.
You know, hopefully engage with a lot of constituents and, you know, have multiple lit drops where we go out and we put out materials and we're knocking on doors and talking to them about what's important to them. And then it's a lot more fundraising, right? And unfortunately, it costs a lot of money to do these things, you know. I personally have to come to the table with, 10 or 15,000 for myself to be able to even run, and then I have to be able to commit to raise a ton of money, it's in a contested election, you definitely want to have at least 100,000 to be running, for mailers and all of that sort of stuff. So there's a lot ahead, unfortunately. It's going to be a busy year. Man.
But I think that with everything you've accomplished in your career, anybody who's been paying attention to what's gone on in Lindenhurst in the downtown area and just with the community as a whole, I would think that you would you have a great shot, and you definitely have my vote, bro.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. Listen, I mean, it's I hope it's a clean, good, easy election, and I really I've done a lot. You're right, and I've done it for a couple of reasons. One, selfishly, because I want what my property that I own to be worth more, but I really want to create a space for my kids. I have two kids, that Riley and Lily. They're Lily's 5, Riley's 2, and I want them to have a great experience growing up, better than ours.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Like my parents maybe, and I want to make a nice place for them to live. So. We got a lot of work to do that. So.
Absolutely, bro. I certainly think you've done that, man. And just from what I've seen from how we grew up to how it is now, it's like night and day. So, I want to commend you on that. And,
thank you.
And definitely thank you for coming on the podcast. Before we wrap up, I want to give you an opportunity to put out any links that you want to, drive the audience to, regardless if it's your campaign, personal website, anything for the village, and anything else that you want to promote.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to just say, if you don't mind, stop by rjrenna.com. We just got a website up, but probably better just to follow us on Facebook and Insta. And, even if you don't vote for me, or you're not interested in voting, or you don't really care about politics, it's probably just a good place to see what's going on in Lindenhurst and this neighboring community and what's going on around here. And then as a close, I kind of want to say thanks. Thanks so much, Rich, for having me. Like you said, we do go back a while, and I'm excited to see you do this. I've been following it. I literally see you run through my feeds all the time, and I click the links, and I do tend to watch. So I appreciate you having me on, and I hope you continue to get more engagement and you grow this out, and you continue to make an impact too.
Absolutely, man. And I want to help other business owners too that are in Lindenhurst. So, I talk to people from Movers and the Holy Black about doing that and trying to get more of those guys on the podcast too, because I think anything that we can do to help the community and just get the word out there about what these business owners are doing, I'm happy to do that too. So, thanks again for coming on. If you're watching still, I'm going to put all the links in the description for RJ, his campaign, and for the community. And get out and vote, man. This guy's done a lot for the community. If you live here, you've seen the change over the last 10 years or so. And thanks guys for watching. We'll have a new episode every Sunday as usual. Have a great weekend, guys.